Nobody.
Me, Sandra. This is Sandra.
Go for it.
All right. So what I use and what I have been using is like I'll do that, all of that, and I kind of pinpoint and say, hey, did you realize that you were spending this much, on takeout or whether it's coffee, from Starbucks or whatever it was. I asked them that, do they realize that, how much they were spending? And for the most part, 90% of them didn't realize it because it's all like auto pay or, they're just had their card already on there, the apps or what have you, and they didn't realize it. I actually have a couple of clients or, some people just kind of, they decided to stop, so they'll contact me once in a while, like, look, I stopped spending so much money, but that's one of the questions that I do ask them. And for the most part, they don't realize that they're spending that much. And then they'll like sit down and start budgeting themselves now even more.
Good stuff. Anybody else have techniques when you do a budget on how to get the client to shift their mindset and realize that they need to do something more for themselves?
Tony, doesn't that come from when you're doing your initial fact finding and talking to them and seeing exactly what they're looking for? So are you looking for cash value, looking for living benefits, you're looking for this, that, the other? So why don't we divert some of this money that you're spending on takeout and put it to really take care of what your needs are, what you're looking for?
There you go.
I would even challenge them, Tony. I would say, hey, you know what? Let's say we figured out they're spending $500 a month on takeout. What else could you be buying with $500 a month? What else could you be investing in? What else could you be doing with that money? Do you think it's a really smart use of your money? Challenge them.
There you go. Yeah, and Carmen said a good word there, challenge them, okay? Let me ask you guys a genuine question and be honest. I'm not here to judge you. Nobody's here to judge. This is a judgment-free zone. How many of you all are afraid to challenge your clients out of fear that they're not going to want to buy from you? Like if you can just—
Used to be,
okay. Put it on the comments. Let me see you on the comments. Put down me. Put down the word me as in you. If you are afraid, okay, to challenge your clients out of fear that they are just going to not want to buy from you at all. Okay. I see 1, 2, I see 3, I see 4.
Tony,
okay. Yes.
I don't think it's a fear of not buying. It's for me always a fear of feeling like I don't want to insult them, right? Like I don't, especially if I don't, if it's someone I'm just meeting through a referral, like I don't, because I've heard some people and just like as they were treating me, be very, in my opinion, very insulting.
Okay.
And so that's the toll for me, not so much the fear of challenging, but the, I don't want to insult anyone or get shot. Right. That too.
Gotcha. Okay. And listen, guys, I'm asking you all these questions because I was once in your shoes too. I know exactly what a new agent feels like. I remember when I was within my first years in the industry, guys, I was in my early 20s, you know what I mean? In a predominantly Caucasian community with old money meaning I'm talking, 50, 60-year-old clients that have family advisors. You know what a family advisor is? The advisor that you just inherit. It's like my grandmama had it, my dad had it, so I have to have it. And so I'm fighting that world while trying to succeed, while being a young Latino in a very predominantly Caucasian community as a minority. And I'm like trying to, you get that fear. It's okay. Here's my advice to you. You have to really look at yourself in the mirror one day and realize the value you bring to your community. You really do. Okay. I believe wholeheartedly that the concept of being a life insurance agent is a concept of being a retirement specialist. Notice the language that I'm using, a retirement specialist, not financial advisor, right? There's laws against saying financial advisor or certified financial planner. You can't do those types of things, but you can call yourself a retirement specialist, right? So the license that we have to be this, it can change people's lives. It can genuinely change people's lives. People that never thought they had a chance at retiring could have a chance at retirement. People that never thought they had a chance at leaving behind a legacy can leave a legacy. People that wanted to protect their families can protect their families in a way that's never been before. So you really have to have pride for what you do and not be ashamed of it. I'll tell you that, number one. Number two, you do have to understand the psychology of sales. Most of the times people are like, what do you do for a living? I don't tell them I'm a life insurance agent. Why? Because there's a taboo, there's a name, there's a stigma behind that. Life insurance agent, like, right? So I don't mention that piece Not because I'm ashamed of it, but because I understand the psychology of sales. So when people ask me, hey, what do you do? Well, I work in the area of insurance and investments. And they're typically like, well, what does that mean? Well, I specialize in income tax reduction strategies, right? Business planning and insurance management. Do you own a business? Are you looking to pay less in taxes? Or are you looking to have a tax-free retirement? What's of interest to you? And I end it with a question, right? Because I just want the curiosity. But now when I'm in the fact finder, let me tell you what I do when I do a budget, because that's huge. It's not just doing a budget. You got to get your client to shift their mindset. You got to get your client to realize that they need to start caring more about the future version of themselves than the today version of themselves. So you got to get that shift. That's how you build. That's how you get a client to give you a $500, $600, $700 commitment per month. That's how you turn a $1,200 case into a 6,000 point case, is because of that. Okay. Here's what I typically tend to do. I'm very big about asking questions before I go in for the kill. I like to ask a lot of questions before I go in for the kill. And the reason I ask questions, because I'm going to give you a visual. Every time I ask a question, I'm eliminating an objection. And if I eliminate enough objections along the way, I basically put them up against a wall. Once I got them up against a wall, I'm coming in for the kill. And it's hard for them to give me an objection that I've already overcome through my questions, right? So for example, I'll ask them these questions. I'll say, listen, let me ask you a question. How long have you been generating this type of income, right? I mean, they just did a budget with me. How long have you been generating this type of income? Well, we've been doing it now for about 3 years now. Okay. So for the last 3 years, your budget has been about the same, right? You know, where you make X amount of money, you spend X amount of money. Okay, gotcha. Let me ask you a question. If you had to hazard a guess, how much is in your current savings right now? How much would you say there is? Right? Oh, I got, $1,000 in savings. Okay, gotcha. How much can you save every month? Well, I could save, $500 a month. That's how much I do every month. And I'm like, okay. So now in my head, I'm doing math. I'm thinking, wait, the guy just told me he could save $500 a month, but he's got $1,000 in his savings. He's been living this income lifestyle for the last 3 years, right? So my question is this to them. Hey, listen, if you've been making the same amount of income for the last 3 years, having roughly about the same amount of expenses for the last 3 years, you're telling me you can save $500 a month, but you only have 1,000. You should have somewhere around $18,000 put away, right? I mean, $500 a month times 12 is 12, is 6,000 a year for 3 years. That's 18,000, but you have $1,000 instead. What happened? You see how I just put them up against a wall? It's hard for them to fight that math. It's hard for them to fight that math because I found out you've been in the same income expense lifestyle for 3 years. You're telling me $500 a month is what you can save, but you only got $1,000 a month in savings. So the math doesn't add up. Because if you really have been in the same income expense lifestyle and $500 a month is really what you could save, then 500 for 3 years, which is 36 months, is $18,000. You should be somewhere in that vicinity, but you only got 1,000. So let me ask you a question. What happened? Like, what happened? You give a curiosity kind of question. I like to do Zoom meetings in camera because I want them to see my facial. I want them to see my body language. Like, what happened? They need to see my frown, my curiosity. Like, what happened? I'm not insulting you. I'm just, what happened? And I want to hear what happened. Maybe there is a valid reason. Maybe there isn't. 9 times out of 10, there's no valid reason. 1 time out of 10, there's a valid reason. Like, listen, my daughter got sick. We needed to go do some alternative healing meditation. It cost us close to $10,000. We liquidated our savings in order to do it. Like, okay, cool. There's valid reason. But what do I now know? That means that at one point they had $10,000 put away. That means that at one point they were good savers. Okay, that's data. I need the data. But if they're 9 times out of 10, you know what they say? They say, we just haven't been disciplined. That's what they'll say. Or, you know what? We just been bad savers. They'll say that. And that's okay. I cannot challenge that until I ask all those questions. So I'm putting up against a wall. How long have you been earning this type of income and expense? 3 years. Okay. How much can you save on a monthly basis? Oh, I could save X amount. Okay. If you had to hazard a guess how much money you have, how much do you have? Well, I got this amount. Well, wait a minute. Hang on a second. Let me do the math here real quick. For 3 years, you can save 500. You should have X amount, but you only have this amount. The number's like, wait, math, it's 1 + 1 is 2, and it'll never be 3. So what happened? Let them admit it. Let them admit it. Honestly, just let them admit it. Because once they admit it, here's my next question to them. Let me ask you a question. Who's going to fund your retirement? Right? Let me ask you a second question, right? You have children. What do you think is going to happen if in the future you're medically ill and you're not able to work, you don't have enough money put away for savings? Do you think your children are going to just kind of leave you high and dry? I mean, I'll tell you right now, me, I'm going to step in for my family. They're going to tell me, no, 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 no. I'm going to step in for my family. As a son to my mother, I'm going to step in. Right? So, Mr. Client, how important is it to you to make sure when retirement comes, you can stand on your own 2 feet? Not have to rely on the government, not have to rely on asking your family to stop their lives to take care of you. How important is it to you, scale of 1 to 10, for you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet when you hit retirement? Right? Because nobody, would you agree with me, Mr. Client, that nobody is going to take care of the future you except for who? You. You. Mr. Client, with your permission, can I have a real conversation with you? So Roxanne, that question that you asked, I'm worried that they're going to get offended. You know what I asked? That's the question I go, listen, with your permission, can I have a real conversation with you? Are you okay if are you okay if I talk to you like you were my family member? Are you okay if I talk to you like you were my brother or my cousin or my uncle or my mom? Are you okay if I talk to you like that way for the next 5 minutes? You know what most people say? Yes. Please talk to me. But look how I positioned it, Mr. Client. For the next 5 minutes, can I have a real conversation with you? Can I talk to you like you were my mom? Can I talk to you like you were my brother? Can I talk to you like you were my uncle or whomever it is you want to relate it to? You know what most people say? Yeah, please. I mean, ask yourself that question. When someone says to you, hey, can I talk to you like you're my boy, like you're my brother? Do you get offended by that? Do any of you get offended by that? I don't think so, right? When you're asking someone to put them in a category of family, most people aren't going to get offended. Mr. Client, are you okay for the next 5 minutes? I just have a very real conversation with you. I don't sugarcoat it. I just, you know, I talk to you like you were my family member, like you were my blood. You okay with that? Yeah, of course. Okay. Mr. Client, my job, just so you understand, I'm the only person that's ever going to be in your face that's going to make you feel uncomfortable today for the purposes of make you comfortable later. There's not a single profession, there's not a single occupation you're going to work with right now, outside of maybe a doctor, that's going to make you feel uncomfortable today for the purposes of being comfortable later. Because your accountant does what? He wants to give you tax deductions now, not later. Right? Right? Most people you talk to want to take care of you today. They're not really worried about the later version of you. Maybe a doctor. My job is to make you uncomfortable now so that later, when later hits, you have options, you have resources. And because you have options and you have resources, you can look back and go, man, I'm glad I talked to Tony 30 years ago. I'm glad Tony made me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm glad Tony was willing to challenge me because nobody was willing to challenge me before. Right? So here's the reality, Mr. Client. If you don't start putting money away for yourself now, the only options for you when you hit retirement is either going to be asking the government for a handout or asking your family, your children, to pause their lives to take care of you. And I'm saying this from the goodness of my heart. I want to try to help prevent that. If you'll allow me to. If you'll allow me to, I'd like to show you what you could do to reposition your current spending habits so that you're paying yourself first before you pay all these other vendors. Mr. Client, would you allow me that opportunity to show you how to do this? That's typically how I challenge them, right? So watch this. Here's what I'll do. Let me ask somebody. Rhonda, can you unmute yourself? I'm just randomly picking. Rhonda Fleming, can you? Hey, there we go.
Hey there,
Rhonda, let me ask a question. Who's your cell phone carrier?
Verizon.
How long you been with Verizon?
Too long, probably about 10 years.
About 10 years, right? Chances are you'll probably be with them another 20.
More than likely, yeah.
What do you spend, like $200 a month with them?
Unfortunately, yeah, just a little bit over.
Right? So look at this, $200 a month for 12 months, $2,400 a year.
What?
For 30 years is about $72,000. You know, $72,000 for 30 years, I could compound that return to about 500,000. I could
Let's do
compound that to about $500,000. Let me ask you a question. When you finally hit retirement, Rhonda, and you're 65 and you're ready to retire, do you think Verizon's going to say, thank you for your good service? Thank you for 30 years of good customer service. We're going to start paying you back some of the money you gave us?
Not at all.
Not never. Matter of
Nope.
fact, if you don't make the payment, when you turn 65 and one day, if you don't make that payment that month, they're going to disconnect your service.
Yep.
They're not going to give a damn that you've been with them for 30 solid years. They're not going to care. So,
Sure.
Rhonda, if I could show you a way to start paying yourself first and not worry so much about all the vendors that you're participating with, because those vendors don't care about the future, Rhonda, if I could show you how to start paying yourself first, would you allow me that opportunity? I'm just asking for
Absolutely.
permission.
Absolutely. Let's
guys-
go for it.
You see how I'm doing it? I'm asking for permission. I'm asking for permission. I'm asking for permission, but I'm also being very real with her.
Mhm.
I'm being very honest. Mr. Client, Miss Client, I need you to understand something. The future you is counting on you. And if you don't take care of the future you, the only thing you have is the government to ask for help, or your family that you have to ask them to pause their entire life to take care of you because you didn't put the plans in place today. And I don't know how that makes you feel, but that would keep me up at night. That would keep me up at night. So, Mr. Client, when we did your budget, I want you to know you're bringing in $5,000 a month, but you have in expenses about $3,500. That leaves you with about $1,500 left over. Now, you told me, right? Because again, I'm asking questions first before I go in for the kill. You told me that you've been making this income and having this type of expense for the last 3 years now, uninterrupted. So if you have $1,500 left over every month for the last 3 years, I mean, you should have anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 put away in savings. How much do you have? Well, I got $500. Oh, interesting. That's a great word, by the way. Interesting. Right? Mr. Klein, let me ask you a question. Where's that money gone? Where has that $1,500 every single month gone for the last 3 years? You know what most people will tell you? Dining out, my kids, my grandkids. That's the answers they give you. That's genuinely the answers they give you. Right? So if they say, oh, my kids, you love your children, don't you? I do. I adore my children. You love your grandkids, don't you? I do. I adore them. I adore them. You want them to succeed in life? Yes. Do you want them to be financially independent? Yes. I'm getting them in yes mentality. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Do you want them to have to pause their life in the future to take care of you because financially you're not able to take care of yourself? That's like a gut check question. No. Do you understand, Miss Klein or Mr. Klein, that by you starting to put away money for yourself, indirectly, you're taking care of them. You're making sure they don't have to step up to the plate. Right? Oh, it's dining out. All right, where do you like to go eat at? I mean, just a question, like, where do you like to eat at? Oh, we like to eat at Chili's. That's our favorite place, Chili's. Okay. Is Chili's going to take care of you when you retire? I mean, they might offer you a job. I mean, maybe you can, you might be able to greet people at the door or work in the back in the dishwashing station, but are they going to take care of you for 30 years of good patronage? No. You think it's time? I'm asking for your permission before I show you. I'm asking you permission if you believe that it's time for you to start paying yourself first. And if it is, would you allow me an opportunity to show you what the Wealth of America do every single month to pay themselves first before they pay these restaurants, before they pay those vendors that they're working with? Would you allow me that opportunity? Yes, I would. And who did I just compare them to? Can I show you what the Wealth of America does? Can I show you how the wealth pays themselves first? It's a different mind shift. It's a way to challenge them, to get them to understand, I need to do something. Like, why am I playing around spending this much money left and right? This is going here, this is going here, this is going here. Like, holy crap, he's right. If I don't do something now, when I hit 60, my family's got to take care of me, or the welfare system's got to take care of me. And I don't want none of that. I don't want none of that. Mr. Klein, when you go to Walmart, And you walk through the door, how old is the greeter? How old is the greeter? You know what they say? Ooh, like 50, 60, maybe 70. You think that was their plan? Honestly, let me ask you, do you think that was their plan? No, but you know what happened, right? They don't want to rely on the government because it's not enough, and they don't want to burden their family. So they'd rather go work at Walmart, greeting at the door, standing up for 8 hours a day with their knees hurting, wishing that they weren't there, wishing that they were retired, spending time with their grandkids or traveling, but they have to work because they have no choice. I guarantee you, if you have a warm-hearted conversation with them, they'll tell you, I wish somebody 30 years ago would have told me that I needed to start doing something for me now. I wish somebody 30 years ago would have challenged me to start taking care of myself now. I wish the 30-year younger version of me would have said, I need to take care of 70-year-old version of me. So, Mr. Klein, now that I've got your attention, right? That's how I ease up the, now that I got your attention, they'll kind of laugh, haha. With your permission, I'd love to show you what the Wealth of America does. I'd love to show you what my clients do to pay themselves first. Now, before I show this to you, I need a commitment. I'll be 100% honest with you. I need a commitment from you. You've got $1,500 left over every month that you're spending somewhere and you don't know where. I need to know a commitment on that number that you're willing to give me every month. Whether it's a good month or a bad month. Whether it's a good month or a bad month, the month where you have the biggest risk of spending money frivolously, I need to know what is that number that you're willing to say to me, Tony, I'm going to shift my spending habits and I'm going to give you a X amount of monthly commitment. Make sure it's a number that challenges you, but make sure it's a number that doesn't deplete all $1,500. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you to take all $1,500. You still need to live for today, but I need you to come up with a number there that you can commit to paying yourself first. You see how I massage it and massage it and massage it? And I mean, I'm politely beating them up. I need them to shift their mindset. Stop thinking that they have time. I have time. I have time. You know what I do when people tell me I have time? I have time. You know what I do? I say, let me use somebody as an example here. Let me see. Yeah. Who could I pick? Bridget Barnes. Can I borrow you? Bridget Barnes. Can I borrow you for this exercise?
Yes, you may.
Awesome. Bridget, how old are you?
40.
40. Okay. You remember when you were in your 30s?
Yes,
Yeah? You remember when you were 30? You remember your 30th birthday?
I do.
Does it feel somewhat like it was yesterday?
I don't know. A lot's happened between then and now.
Okay. You remember when you were 20?
Kind of.
Kind of. Let me ask you this question. Don't you feel like in life you kind of blinked and all of a sudden you went from 20 to 30? Blinked and went from 30
I
to
do.
40? Like blinked.
Yes.
I'm 38.
Yes.
I'm 38. I remember when I was 28 and I remember when I turned 18. And I think to myself, holy crap, 18, right? Technically an adult. That was 20 years ago. But I remember it like it was yesterday. You know, you see that now, Bridget, let me ask you a question. When you blink again, you're going to be 50. And when you blink a second time, you're going to be 60. The same way 20 years just passed for you is the same way the next 20 is going to pass. So would you agree that I have time might not necessarily be as accurate as you think, because life is constantly punching you in the face every day, reminding you of things that you need to do. And before you know it, so much time's already passed. Right?
Yes.
See the language that I'm giving them? Right? Let me see. Grandparents, raise your hands if you're a grandparent. Grandparent. Okay. Let me borrow Phil. Phil Douglas, can I borrow you for a minute, bud? Go ahead and unmute yourself real quick.
Yes.
Awesome. Phil, you have grandkids, right? How old's your
Yes.
oldest?
16.
16 is your grandchild?
Yes, my oldest.
You remember the first day he was born?
Yes.
You remember when you went to go see him?
Yeah, it's a girl.
It's a
Yes.
girl? You remember when you held her?
Yes,
Crazy right now that she's 16, right?
I know, time flies.
My goodness. And that is your daughter's child or your son's child?
My daughter, I have 3 daughters.
You have 3 daughters. You remember when you held that daughter when she was born?
Yes,
See how time flies?
really.
That speed is gonna happen. It's gonna keep happening. It's gonna keep happening.
Yeah, they grow fast.
I gotta give people perspective, guys. Well, I gotta give people perspective that holy crap, he's right. I have blinked and this has happened. Blinked and this has happened. Like yesterday I took my mother out to dinner for Mother's Day, and we were talking about my son. My son's gonna be 13 this year. My baby boy, right? My firstborn, the one that made my mom a grandmother for the first time. That's the first grandchild. Y'all know what I'm talking about, grandparents. That first one, he's gonna be 13 this year. And I'm like, holy crap, yo, like time freaking flew, man. I remember when my son was born. I remember late at night at 1 a.m. as I'm walking in the hospital, back and forth, pacing in my room. And while my ex-wife is asleep, how I'm talking to my son and I'm literally tearing up, crying, telling him everything I want to do for him as a father. That was 13 years ago. Like, time flies, guys. You got to challenge your clientele to realize time flies. And if you don't do something now, the only thing you're going to have is the government or your family that's going to have to stop their lives to take care of you because you didn't take care of yourself. So with your permission, Mr. Klein, I'd love to show you what the Wealth of America does. But before you tell me yes, you have to have a number you're willing to give me as a commitment. A commitment as to how much you're going to pay yourself first before you spend $1,500 somewhere and have no recollection of where it is. What's that number? That's my challenge to people. You know what I typically get? A third of whatever that number is, just so y'all know. A third. Someone says 1,500 is left over. You know what they give me? How about 500? I commit to 500. And then you take that number and break it up into pieces. $500, that's $125 a week. I just want you to, that's $125 a week. That's $125 a week. Like, hold on, wait a minute. That's $125 a week. That's $17 a day. That's $17 a day. I just want you to know what I'm asking you to do is $17 a day. Are you able to make that commitment? If you are, I'll show you what the Wealth of America does with that money. If you're not, then tell me now, because listen, I'm here for the long haul. I don't want you to do something that 3 months from now you're not able to commit to. I don't. I'm not a side chick. I'm not here for the short run. I'm here for the long haul. I'm wifey. I want to have annual reviews with you. I want to be able to look at in a year from now and say, hey, this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. Are you willing to give me that kind of conversation? Can you find a way to pay yourself first before you pay everybody else? And if so, what's that number? And then let them give you a number. Let them give you a number. Now, let's say they give you 500, right? Okay, 500. Okay, good. If you've done a dime analysis on your client, and now you have a budget, and they're interested in IULs as an option, you always got to create some wiggle room for yourself. So when they tell you 500 is your number, here's what I say to them. I go, look, in your dime, I'm here to solve 2 problems for you, Mr. Client. I'm here to solve 2. 1, I'm here to solve your insurable need. Your insurable need says you need $750,000 based on this dime analysis. Your savings gives you just gave me a $500 commitment. I'm going to do my very best to fit all of your solutions inside of this $500 a month. But I need to know something. If I can fit your savings goals and your insurable need of $750, but instead of it being 500, it's 550. Is that a deal breaker? Or are we still within the vicinity of what you can commit to doing? You know what most people tell me? I could do that. $50 more? I got you, no problem. No problem. Now, let me ask everybody, why do I ask that question? Why do I ask for that extra wiggle room?
To make sure that you can cover their insurance needs. You can add a term to IUL if that's what they're choosing to go with.
There you go. I'm going to build an IUL at $500 a month. I'm going to properly overfund it based on their age, that whole 9. But then I know for sure if they got a $750,000 insurable need, How many of y'all know? You know it. You know it. There's no way you're going to get a $750,000 IUL out of a $500 a month budget. You're just not. They're going to be short insurance when you build that IUL the right way at $500 a month. They're going to have maybe $250,000, 300,000 at best. They're short. So the extra $50 is how I purchase term insurance to cover the gap, to cover the difference. And that's how I'm cross-selling 2 policies. That's called a wrap account. That's how I learned. It's called a wrap account. I'm taking the IUL and wrapping a term policy with it. Right? You can call it a gap plan as well, whatever, however you want. But at the end of the day, both of them together should equal the $750 of insurable need that they have. And the IUL should be the $500 a month commitment that they gave you. Does that make sense? Or does anybody have a question about that? Everybody's good? Good. Okay. That's my language every time. If you've gone to the field with me 7, 8, 9 times, I promise you, you're looking at me and you're like, bro, you're like a freaking robot. You're like a recording machine. Yes, I'm a recording machine. I've done this, over and over and over. They say that a salesman is nothing but a failed actor. It's the truth. It's a truth. It's a script to me. It's a click, script, go. Click, script, go. Click, script, go. Before I go for the kill, I have to create the stage. I have to set the stage. So that's why I ask the questions and poke and prod and just I'm positioning the person so that they're telling me the information that I need. Like an attorney, right? What does an attorney do? They ask a lot of questions to learn. Close doors. Boom, I'm going in for the kill. Same thing. Mr. Klein, you've been in this income, in this expense lifestyle for 3 years now, right? You just admitted that to me. You got $1,500 left over every month. If my math is correct, you should have about $60,000 put away because $1,500 a month times 12 months is 18,000. 18,000 for 3 years, like that's close to 60 grand, right? Like, but you're telling me you only got 3,000 put away in savings. What happened? It's kind of hard. Oh snap, Tony, you got me, right? Like, oh crap. That's my process. So when you're asking Tony, how are you taking policy? How are you selling these families? $500 a month, $400 a month, $750 a month. My average case size, guys, is 4,500 to 6,000 in target per family. That's it. Cinnamon and I just closed on a case, husband and wife. We didn't even do the kid policies yet. Husband and wife, 16,800 in target. Because when I did a dime analysis, they needed $2 million of coverage. And guess what? They make a 6-figure income so they can afford it. You think I'm done? I'm not done. When we go to do the delivery policies, you know what I'm coming after in the delivery meetings? $50 a month IULs for kids. I'm going to bring with me 50, 75, and 100. Let them pick which one. If the worst thing they do is pick 50 and they got 3 kids, hey, listen, that's $1,800, $1,800 in target. Because 500 times, times 12, $600 times 3, 1,800. That's another 18, just on the delivery meeting. Shout out to Carmen Barnes, actually. Today, I saw her sending out a bunch of posts to policies that have gotten approved where she's telling the client, hey, listen, we need to schedule a delivery meeting. Shout out. We need to schedule a delivery meeting. I'm seeing her doing it and I'm like, oh, I know what she's up to. That's my girl. I know what she's up to. She's getting ready. Respect. Don't be that agent that's like, oh, here's your policy. I'm sending it in the mail. Bye. There's so much cross-selling opportunity when you do it this way. So many cross-selling opportunities. So with that, let me show you the cross-selling opportunity. If in your close, you didn't close on a kid's IUL, if you didn't, you need to come into the delivery with a kid's IUL. So one thing that I get in my fact finder, even if I'm not selling a kid's IUL, I want the kid's name. I want the kid's date of birth. I want to know how many kids you got. Because in the delivery meeting, I'm bringing with me some kid IULs. I'm bringing with me that. Now, let's set the rules for kid IULs for a minute. Let's set the rules. Number one, I'm focusing in today on North American. Today, I'm focusing on North American. Now, if you're asking me, well, Tony, why North American for kid IULs instead of Allianz? Okay, I'll tell you exactly why. And I wish, and I pray, and I hope Allianz one day comes up with this, but they don't have it currently. There's a rider called a Guaranteed Insurability Rider, GIR rider, okay? This rider is such an amazing rider. It's the perfect rider to talk to a mom about this. Moms care about what? The nurturing, the protection. Dads care about what? The accumulation, the wealth, right? That's just the psychology of how most households are. Not every household, but most. So if your household is different, then forgive me, right? You're part of the minority group of this. Okay. This writer says that your child, as an adult, can purchase more insurance 6 different times without no medical underwriting at his health today or her health today. So you got a 5-year-old kid. Wait a minute, you mean to tell me that the child, when they turn into an adult, can buy insurance not once, not twice, not 3 times, 6 times between the ages of 21 and 40, with no medical underwriting, guaranteed, approved at the health that they are today? Mr. Client, what if your child in the future develops a sickness that disqualifies them from being able to buy insurance, and now they have a family of their own to protect, but they can't get insurance because something happened to them medically? Wouldn't that guaranteed insurability rider allow you to have the peace of mind of knowing you can get more coverage at today's health, no matter what? That rider is accessible in three companies that I know of for sure: NLG, American National, and North American. Those 3 have it. They have it. I like that rider. I love that rider. How does that rider work? Every 3 years, they're going to get a letter from the insurance company. Hey, John, congratulations, you're 18. Congratulations, you're 21, right? It goes every 3 years. So it's like 21, 24, 27, 30, like every 3-year windows, right? They have an opportunity to exercise that. And what they're doing is they're buying an additional $25,000 IUL. So it's another policy on top of another. You're not increasing your existing policy. You're adding a second policy, and then adding a third, and then adding a fourth, 25,000 each time at the health that they are today. Right? That's a rider I like. Number 1. Let me see what questions there are here. What do you tell a client that asks why a kid's IUL instead of a whole life policy? Vernon. When I get clients that ask me why a whole life versus an IUL, number 1, they have some type of history experience with insurance. I want to know what it is. Oh, you know about whole life. That's great. Let me ask you a question. What do you know about it? Right? I can't educate you unless I know what you know. So what do you know about it? I want to know what they know. What intel do you know that you're asking me that question? But then here's my answer. Here's my answer to that. The difference between whole life and IUL is very simple. Whole life earns income based on one company, and that's the company you did business with. So if you get a whole life policy from Mutual Trust or Foresters or Anico, whatever whole life company you want, pick one. You're going to make a rate of return based on how that one company performs. One. When you go an IUL, you're going to make a return based on how 500 companies perform. So you're creating much more flexibility for yourself. The average whole life policy is going to earn 4 to 5%, but the average IUL is going to earn 6 to 7 to 8%. Why? Because you're making a return based on 500 companies instead of one company. The other reason is because a whole life policy is an or situation and not an and. What do you mean by or and? Well, you're either going to, with a whole life, you're either going to leave behind the death benefit or the cash value, but you're never going to leave both. With an IUL, you get to leave both, the cash value and the life insurance. So it's an and or an or. Let me ask you a question. When you go out to eat and you order your meal and they say, do you want soup or salad? Isn't it better if they said, do you want soup and salad, or instead of soup or salad? You want both, but you can only pick one. Well, IUL gives you both. Whole life gives you one. Does that make sense, Vernon? Yes, yes, and yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's my script. And listen, if they say to me, yeah, but you know what? My family grew up on whole life policies. I've had one as a kid. My grandmama, I really like it. You know what you say? Okay, no problem. I got you. I have solutions for you too. Right? Go right into Anico and NLG. I don't know if North American does. Anico and NLG both have phenomenal whole life policies that you could still add that guaranteed insurability rider onto. No problem. No problem. You can. By the way, guys, I get that question whole life, maybe 1 in every 50. So don't kill yourself too much about mastering that piece, but I'm giving you the answer to it. Okay. Now, that's rule number 1 I just talked about, the guarantee insured value added. Rule number 2, I'm speaking strictly North American. The parents of the child need to have twice the amount of coverage that you're applying the child for. That's rule number 2. So if you're getting the child 300,000 of insurance, that means parents need to have what? 600,000 of coverage. But what if, mom doesn't talk to dad? It's a co-parenting plan. Mom doesn't talk to dad. They're fighting. They just got divorced. Mom is really the one that's paying it, or dad's is the one that's really paying it. What you need to do is you need to anticipate and put a cover letter together and send it in with your application. Send a cover letter. Hey, underwriter, just to give you an update, this policy is, my client is the mom. My client is not the dad. That's a divorced house. They're separated. They don't talk. They're not on speaking terms. Therefore, mom cannot ask dad how much insurance he has. And I'm unable to know. It's 2 different households. I need you to make an exception on both parents need twice the amount of coverage. That's it. Simple as that. Just create that cover letter. Now, mom or dad, whoever's the payer, does need to have twice the amount of coverage. Twice. So today I had that happen, just so you know. And by the way, I'm training you on this because even I learn as I go too. I'm not the person that's like, I'm not going to go forward until I learn it. Like, I learned this as I went today too. I had a client that has $325,000 of insurance, and I applied the child for a $325,000 policy because some insurance companies are not twice the amount. Some insurance companies the rule is you have to have the same amount. Like, I think with Anaco, you need to have the same amount of coverage. Mom or dad need to have the same amount as child, not twice the amount, until you get to like $500,000 or something like that. North American is twice the amount from the rip, from the beginning. And so the underwriter said to me, hey, listen, unfortunately, we can't get this child approved at 325 because that's what mom has. And mom needs to have twice the amount of coverage. So the only thing we can offer the child is half that amount, which is whatever, 160,000. So what do? I call the mom up. I said, Mom, listen, in order for your child to have this policy at the $100 a month in savings that you wanted to do, in order for that to happen, you need to have twice the amount of coverage that he has. I applied him for 325. You have 325. I need you to have 650, but I have an answer for you. Okay. What if I can get you that extra 325 for like 15, 16 bucks a month? Would you do it? Heck yeah. How can you get it to me that cheap? Well, we have a product called annual renewable term. How in the world does annual renewable term work? Well, here's how it works. What I sold you, your first policy, right? If this is time and this is money, what I sold you in your first policy is like this, level. Right? Hang on, sorry. There we go. Right? Your price is level. This is your price. It's level for 20 years or 30 years, whatever we signed up for. An annual renewable term works differently. It starts off really, really low, but this is what it does over the years. Right? So you're saving this, but in return later, you're going to pay all of this. I'm not a big fan of annual renewable plans because within 7 years, statistically, it's costing more money than it should. Right? So what I recommend is this. Your first policy is this one right here, 325. Let's purchase one of these. It only costs like 15 bucks a month. I only need you to keep that policy for 1 year. 1 year. So if you want your child to get this big policy, you need to have this one, because this policy plus this policy will equal the 650 that you need. But you only need to keep this one for a year. So you just got to pay 15 bucks for a year. And then on the 13th month, you can go ahead and cancel it if you don't want it. Is that okay with you? Most parents say, yeah, no problem. So now the child gets to keep the original policy that we applied for. And now I get another policy that I just sold the mom for at like 15 extra bucks more per month. I just did that with American National. I literally just did that today with American National. That's the solution. Any questions about that? Yes, ma'am.
Tony,
Yes.
hey, this is Norma. So on the annual renewable term, and you have a high policy value, if something happens to that client during that time, they still get that same amount of that face value?
If heaven forbid something happened while both those policies are enforced, family would get 650,000 instead of 325.
Wow.
Yeah, but I did that because I just needed the loophole of getting the child's policy approved. Mom has to have twice the amount. So listen, now technically mom does have twice the amount. Once a policy is approved, signed, sealed, delivered, the insurance company can't go back. So after a year of that annual renewable term being enforced, you can cancel that policy, and the kid's policy is already enforced. You can't go back. Make sense?
What was the kids policy on the carrier?
North American.
Mhm.
Right. So that's essentially what we did to solve for that situation, right? What's something else? I had it in the tip of my head. I had it right there in my head. And I can't. Oh, here's another thing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Is there a cap on the amount of IUL you can get on the kid?
So good question, right? Here's where you run into murky waters when you're getting over $500,000 on a child. That's when the insurance companies tend to start asking questions like, why are we putting so much insurance on the kid? Like, that's a lot. So I try to stay under $500,000 as much as I can, because they don't typically ask questions there. Once you hit over $500,000, they might need you to include a cover letter explaining why. I have gone over $500,000, but it's typically on families that are making over 150,000 or more a year. And then I can kind of validate it. Like, they live a different lifestyle. They've got bigger debts, bigger mortgages, bigger this, bigger that. Like, then I can kind of validate it. But under $500,000 is where I try to stay. Okay. Another rule with kid policies is this: every child has to have the same amount of face value. You can't do this kid at 500, this kid at 300, this kid at 200. No. So you start with the oldest, you build out that one, and then you go to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. But every kid has to have the same amount monthly that you're paying in and the same amount of insurance. You can't show preference on one, because the underwriter will go, wait a minute, why are you putting 500 on this kid but 200 on this kid? Doesn't work that way. Every child has to. Every child has to. Every child has to. Unless they're adults. If they're adults, they don't count in that sector. It's minor children. And they won't count stepchildren as part of that formula. They only want to see the biological children. If you choose to sell the stepchildren, that's a great thing. I'm not saying don't, but all they care about from an underwriting standpoint is that both biological children or all three biological, whatever the amount of minor kids are, all of them have the same monthly amount, the same face value amount. I see a question here.
I have another question. Oh.
Go for it, Phil.
Parent have their own business. They can legally pay their child in their business $12,000 a year. Now, it'd make more sense to put that $12,000 in a policy versus putting it in the bank. So that would ruin that cap, right?
My dude. It's not that it would ruin the cap, it's that you just got to validate it. The insurance company doesn't care how much money the client wants to put in. What the insurance company cares about is how much insurance they're on the hook for. So you have to understand, the client cares about the cash value. The insurance company cares about the face value, because they're going to be put on the hook for the face value from day one. So even if, like, I'll tell you right now, I could do $12,000 a year salary as a write-off to my business to each one of my kids, no problem. But $1,000 a month for my kids' IULs, they'd have like 3 million of insurance each. I got a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. I can't justify that.
Right.
In underwriting. They wouldn't even approve that in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Let me see here. Marcella asked, for the kids IUL, if a child has seizures after getting insurance, how long would the child need to be seizure free before they can be insurable for another insurance company or get into insurance? Marcella, that is such a specific question that I don't know the answer to it. I would tell you that you should contact Neelam in our back office and ask her that question and let her shop out the market. Look, I'll tell you right now, I'm dealing with a client right now. He went to jail for murder, served 17 years in prison, has been out now for 7 years, is looking to do $600 a month into an IUL. However, Allianz has a 10-year period of time that they have to wait. He's only 7 years into having been released. So he can't get Allianz for another 3 years. So you know what I did? I said, I contacted Neelam. Neelam, I need a permanent cash value insurance company that'll approve a 43-year-old man who was served prison for 17 years for murder, but he's been out now for 7 years. Can you find me someone? Took her 2 days. She sent me back a report. You know which company I'm looking to do it with? Foresters. Foresters. Now they don't have an IUL platform, but I'm going to show them a whole life platform and a UL platform and see if they'll make a move on it. I didn't have to do the legwork, and I don't even need to know that stuff. I don't need to memorize it. Albert Einstein says the key to being a genius isn't knowing everything, it's knowing where to get your answers. I know I can go to Neelam and Neelam can get me the answers. Hopefully that makes sense. Any other questions before I keep going into this? Y'all want to see how I build this illustration? I promise you, you do. You want to see how I build $1 million baby plan. All right, here I go. So we talked about the rules, right? Parents need twice the amount of coverage, guaranteed insurability rider. All the kids need to have coverage. Every one of them, you can't neglect any one of them. They all have to have the same face value, the same monthly payment. No problem. Okay. So now that we got that out the way, let's talk about how we build this bad boy out. It's called the $1 million baby plan. And I'm going to answer a question that you all are going to have for me. Tony, the way you build it out now, is that the way you build it out every time? Guess what my answer is going to be? Yes, come on. Every single time. Guys, every single time I build it out this way. I build it out this way. Okay, before you finish, team is looking for a deadline to pay. Deadline. LG, text me a little bit more in detail what you're asking me, please. Looking for deadline. I don't follow that. Hang on a second. Let me log in. Okay. All right, so let me share my screen here with y'all as I build this bad boy out. Okay. So North American is my go-to. Okay, I'm such a creature of habits. I choose North American. North American is the #2 cash accumulating company in the market space, and they have the guaranteed insurability rider. If Allianz had the guaranteed insurability rider, I'd be doing that one. Hands down, I would. But they don't, so North America is where I gotta go. So here's how I build it out. Start new case. We're gonna pick, the kid's name is Tommy Youth. Right, I'm picking, just randomly picking something. Look at that bad spelling. Tommy Youth. We're gonna make this child a 5-year-old male, North American, kids IUL. Okay. Select the state. Illinois. Let's go with, where is it? Index Universal Life. Find available products. Scroll down. There's North American. The plan I sell is the Builder plus IUL 3. Builder plus IUL 3. Okay. Question that Norma has. So we start with low premiums and increment every 5 years. Sort of correct, Norma, but it's a little bit different with the kids plan. So here is where you can run illustrations. Here's where you do the app. Here's where you run illustrations. Tanisha asked, why the Builder plus 3? So the other two are designed differently. The Protector is designed to have more death benefit protection. The Smart Builder is designed more for like a hybrid infinite banking type strategy. So the Builder plus 3 is the route that I go. So let's say the client says to me, I have a $100 budget. $100 budget's my budget. This is how I design them every time, guys, every time. If the client is under 33 years of age, I'm going to run it at target. If their budget is $100 a month, 100 times 12 is 1,200. So therefore my target is 1,200, right? So I have to figure out first how much insurance equates to 1,200 in target. So here's what I'm going to do. Solve specific. I'm going to start off at $250,000. 250,000. I'm going to increase the death benefit. Why do I want to increase the death benefit? Because as the death benefit increases, I can also increase the contributions, the amount of money that the client's putting in. If the death benefit stayed the same, I would hit a MEC a lot sooner and I wouldn't be able to overfund the policies. Okay. I'm going to increase, but then I'm going to change at a certain age. I'm going to change at 70. Why? Because after 70 years of age, no one's planning to continue to put money in savings. That's when they start withdrawing money. So I don't need to increase after 70. So at 70, I change. We're going to start at $100 a month. And I'm going to hit this changes button because now it creates this little schedule here. Guys, this is how I do it every single stinking time. And if your question is why, I'm going to tell you because I'm a robot and like to keep things simple for my practice. So from 5 to 20, $100. From 20 to 30, $200. From 30 to 40, $300. From 40 to 50, how much would you guess I'm going to put here?
$400.
There you go. So 200 in their 20s, 300 in their 30s, 400 in their 40s. From 50 to 60, $500. And then from 60 to 65, $600. Do you do it like this every single time, Tony? Every single time. What if it's a 10-year-old? What if it's a 16-year-old? Every single time I do it like this. 200 in their 20s, 300 in their 30s, It's a conceptual sale, guys. You just need them to conceptually understand how it works. That's how I build it. Boom, 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 boom. Next, I'm gonna go right here, hit this next button. There's the guaranteed insurability rider. Maximum amount for North America is 25,000. I'm good with that. Next, I started at 250,000 of face value because I'm just guessing that 250,000 is the 1,200 in target. If it's not, I come back and make adjustments. Here's what I do. I hit this agent only button just to quickly view it. I just want to see how close $250,000 of insurance is to a $1,200 target. So 250,000 gets my client 900 in target. See this bottom number here, 900 TP, 900 target premium. So what do I need to do to get this target higher to 1,200? I got to increase the face value.
That's face value.
Yeah, I got to increase it. So I know 250 is not the answer. Okay, good. So now that I know that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the policy. I'm going to go from 250. Let's go to 350. Then I'm going to go back to output, agent only view. Let's see what it does. And I keep basically upping and decreasing the face value until I get as close to 1,200 target as I can. Target now is 1,254, so I'm over. I never like to be over, guys, by the way. So now I know I have to decrease a little bit. Not much, but just a little bit. So now I'm going to take this 350 and I'm going to go to 325. Let's view it now and see what it is. Look at that. That's pretty close. I'm comfortable with that. Look, it's 1166 in target. I'm like, what, $34 away from 1,200. I'm okay with that. This is the illustration that I would show. Now, if this was the oldest child, right? You got where we at here? It's a 5-year-old male. And let's say that male has a 3-year-old sister and a 1-year-old brother. Every one of them are going to have a $325,000 policy. Every one of them are going to be $100 a month under this exact same schedule, 200 in their 20s, 300 in their 30s, because I need to create a situation where everybody gets the same thing. The targets will change. The targets will actually decrease. I won't be able to get it to 1,200 in target because there's different age brackets for the kids, but I started with the oldest child and then I can backstep the rest. So now let's look at this illustration. This is the $1 million baby plan. Okay, here's how I present it. Mr. Klein, I'm going to show you a tax-free retirement that'll make your child a millionaire if you can make $100 a month commitment. Okay, here's how it works. $100 a month is $1,200 a year. This is a $325,000 policy. Now, what you're going to do, Mr. Klein, is you're going to pay $100 a month until the child hits 20 years of age. At 20, if you taught your child to save money and save money and save money over the years, in their 20s, the child starts putting $200 a month in. And they do $200 a month until the child turns 30. In their 30s, the child puts $300 a month in. In their 40s, the child puts $400 a month in. So, Mr. Klein, what I'm showing you is every decade, the child increases their savings by $100. They don't have to. I'm just showing you conceptually what could happen if they did. Okay. Now, in their 50s, what do you think they do? They do $500 a month. And then finally, in their 60s, they do $600 a month until they turn 65 years of age. At 65, they stop putting money in. Do you see how the client stopped putting money in? No more money in, no more money in, no more money in. That if you added all of this up, it's a total of $223,000 that you put into this plan over the course of 61 years. I mean, that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. This $223,000 at retirement is worth $1.245 million worth of cash value. I just 5x'd your client, your child's income. I just took 200 grand and turned it into $1 million. Why? Because your child has something that you and I wish we had. What do you think that is? Anybody want to answer?
Time.
Time and knowledge.
They have time. You see, if you give your money time to work, your money works harder than you do. If you don't give your money time to work, you work harder than money does. And what you're doing is you're showing your child how to let money work for you. If you can make a commitment to $100 a month, and if you can make a commitment to teach your child how to put away 10% of their income starting now, when they turn 20, $200 a month won't kill them. When they turn 30, $30 a month won't kill them. Now, let me show you this. Even though they stop putting payments in here, look what happens to the money. It goes from 1.2 to 1.33, 1.42. That's about $100,000 a year that they can take out tax-free for the rest of their life. Let's say this child from 65 lives to 90, and they take out $100,000 a year. That's 25 years. 100,000 times 25 years is $2.5 million tax-free out of nothing more than a $223,000 contribution. Why? Because the client has time. But there's more, Mr. Client. I want you to understand something. I'm just showing you taking money out at 65. What if the client, what if your child, Bobby, Tommy, needs money in their 30s? At 35, they need money. Well, there's $96,000 that they can tap into. What if they need money in their 40s? Well, in their 40s is $155,000. What could they need money for? Well, maybe it's a down payment on a house. Maybe it's to start a business. Maybe it's to pay for grad school. Maybe it's to cover a medical bill for their children. Maybe it's repairs on their house. At the end of the day, the money is there for them to draw out rather than going to the bank and paying the bank 4 and 5%. They can borrow against their own policies. Maybe they can flip properties doing that. At the end of the day, what they have, Mr. Klein, is called choices. Now, let me tell you something that I love about this as well, too. This is a plan that when your child turns 18, they do not become the owners of this. This is not a policy that when they turn 18, all of a sudden the money's in their hands and they can do what they want with it. No, you own this plan. However long it is, you choose to own the plan. I'll tell you right now, for my children, I don't want them to own their plans at 18. They're going to make dumb decisions. You know how I know that? Because I made dumb decisions with money at 18. And so my goal as a parent is to give this plan to my children when they get married, and God willing, that's in their 30s. I'm going to give it to them as a wedding gift. And guess what? If they're not responsible enough at that age to take on this kind of money, guess what? I'm not going to give it to them because it's my choice when I want to give it to them. It's my choice when I want to give it to them. This is how this plan works. And I haven't even talked about this guaranteed insurability rider, which lets your child purchase an additional $25,000 6 different times. You know, 25,000 times 6? It's $150,000 added to this $325,000 worth of coverage. And let me show you something else. As your cash grows, so does the face value of the policy. So you have the security of knowing, heaven forbid something happens to your son or your daughter, the family, their children are going to get both the insurance and the cash if your child didn't use up that cash. This is how $1 million baby plan works. But You know how many people I meet with that say to me, I wish my parents did something like that for me? You know what most people do when I say that? Yeah, I wish they would have done it for me. Oh, maybe your parents did it, but you have a chance now to do it for yours. You have a chance now to do it for you. Now, this is a conceptual. I'm 5Xing your money. I don't care how much you get into it. In this scenario, you're getting 223,000 into it. I'm going to 5X your money, which means if you only get 100 grand into it, I'm going to 5X that and I'll make you a $500,000. If you get 300 grand into it, I'm going to 5X that and make you 1.5. At the end of the day, I'm going to 5X whatever dollar amount you put in. Whatever dollar amount it is you put in. So if your child doesn't do these increases, or maybe does increases up until $400 a month and never goes any farther, I just need you to understand the result is 5X no matter what. In an environment that is tax-free, creditor protected. So in the event that your son or your daughter gets sued on a personal level or on a business level, none of this money could be garnished, levied. In a world where in certain states, this is also divorce protected. Matter of fact, Mr. Klein, I just want you to know, I have a trust department that I can refer you to that I put a trust in place for this plan. And I want you to understand what that trust could do. I have mine set up where my child, when I decide to give it to him or her, their spouse needs to sign a prenuptial agreement. And this prenuptial agreement says that if they get a divorce, they can split their personal assets, but the assets that I've been working hard to leave behind for my child, that stays with my child and that doesn't separate. And and guess what? If the spouse doesn't want to sign it, then I just leave the money behind for the grandbabies. But this is that type of plan. This is that type of solution. Mr. Klein, have you ever heard of a trust fund, baby? That's what this is. And this is what the Wealth of America love to do. They love to do this. So you know that IUL that I showed you at $500 a month that you're going to double and triple your money? Imagine if we did that when you were 5 years old or 6 years old or 10 years old. That's what I'm showing you right now. Mr. Klein, what would you like to do? What do you think most people say? Yeah, can I mean, I do $100 per kid, no problem. Or they might say, you know what, can I do it at 75? Yeah, I can do it at 75. Can I do it at 50? Yeah, I can do it at 50. What'd you say about them getting to a certain amount and not going any higher? What do you mean by that, Bridget? I'm confused. Bridget, you asked the question. Premium, okay. So here's a question that always gets asked, right? Because I show them increasing their contributions every, in this scenario, it's every 10 years. In adult policies, I show them increasing every 5 years. One of the biggest questions I ask is, well, what if I don't increase? Listen, look at the output return. I'm tripling your money or I'm quadrupling your money. It doesn't, however much you put in, I'm going to do the same. So if you don't do these increases, and you only get 100,000 into your account instead of 200,000, I'm still going to 5X 100 grand, which is $500,000. So you're still going to 5X, I'm still 5Xing your money. So the question is, how much can you get into this plan over the next years, over the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? So you don't have to do these increases. You could stay at $100. I mean, let's do the math. If you did $100 a month, times 12 months, that's $1,200 a year, and you did that for 55 years, that's $66,000 you put into the plan. If I 5X that, I just made you 330,000. Are you upset if I 5X your money? No, but you can't be mad at me if all you do is get 66,000 in there. This is an opportunity for you to get as much as you can in, and you can do it under this schedule if you want. You can do it differently if you want, but at the end of the day, I'm going to 5X what you do. Guys, I do that same script even for an adult plan. If the adult plan 2.5 times the money instead of 5X is the money, maybe 2X is the money or whatever, that's still my script. Mr. Klein, if you don't do this scheduled increases, you don't have to. You're not forced to. But I just need you to understand, when you put 300 grand into it, I made you 600. I doubled your money. So if you only get 150 into it, I'm going to double that. What does that mean? I'm going to make you 300. But if you get $500,000 in it, I'm going to make you a millionaire. I'm going to double your money regardless of what you put in. Question is, how much can you put into it? Right? Tanisha asked, the face amount doesn't impact the return, just the premium, correct? I don't understand that question. Tanisha.
So if you did the policies for this time at 225,000, right? 325. Let's say you were doing it for, someone else, and maybe the target premium is too high to overfund, if say you're doing an adult, right? And you're wanting to overfund, if the premium is too high to overfund at that higher face amount, if you lower the face amount, that doesn't impact the returns. It just impacts the amount of insurance, or does it?
Everything.
Or have you ever tried that?
Everything impacts. Everything impacts. I'm very systematic, guys. Like, I just need y'all to understand that I'm not a technical person. I'm very systematic. If you're between 30 to 40, I'm going to try to overfund by 30%. Between 33 to 34, sorry, between 34 to 40, I'm going to overfund by 30%. If you're in your 40s, I'm going to overfund by 40. If you're in your 50s, I'm going to overfund by 50. And then I tweak it around until I get it to fit within what they're trying to do. But everything has a pro and a con as well, too. If you try to do minimum face value, then you're stuck with a situation where you're not able to overfund later because you might have already hit your MEC limit, right? If you do too much insurance, and the person doesn't overfund, you could find yourself in a situation where you're not growing cash value. Everything impacts. So by a rule of thumb for me, in order to try to defend and protect my client from a down market, but also give them room to put more, I overfund by those percentages. 30 in their 30s, 40 in their 40s, 50 in their 50s. For anybody under 34, I want to run it right at target because they have time. They have so much time to compound and compound. I don't mind running it at target at that point. I just don't want to run it at target for a 50-year-old or a 40-year-old. There needs to be a level of overfunding from the beginning because that person doesn't have nearly as much time as the 30 or the 20-year-old. So they got to play catch up faster. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Here's what I will tell you. Okay. The best way to really master it, go take 2 hours and play around with numbers. Just play around with it. Like, run it this way and then reduce the face value, see how it gets affected. Increase the face value, see how it gets affected. Right? Bridget asked, you may have said this, but if they borrow after so many years, what are the stipulations for repaying it back? Every company is different. For example, North American has a 5% fixed as well, return floor guarantee. But they also do participating and non-participating loans, which I don't want to dig deep into that because I'm very cautious when I do this type of training because we could go for hours on it. And at the end of the day, everybody has a certain amount of a certain amount of time that their mind will retain information. Eventually it just starts going over. But there's differences between participating loan, non-participating loan. Every company is different. So I can't give you a blanket answer to that, Bridget. I'll tell you North American has participating and non-participating. They have variable and fixed loan rates. Based on the dollar amount that the client chooses to buy, the insurance company will give them certain terms. They say, hey, you could pay it back in 3 years, you could pay it back in 5 years, you could pay it back in 10 years, all depending on the dollar amount that they borrow, and they have their schedule in place. Okay. Now here's what I will tell you. All of the questions right now that are being asked, guess how many times I get that question asked by my client? All right, let me look at everybody's faces. How many? Zero.
None.
Zero. Zero, zero, zero. So trust me when I tell you, the way that I just presented it is the way I present it to the client. All of those questions, that's what your jobs are as insurance agents, to try to find the worst, most difficult question to ask from the guy that's living in the woods 500 feet, 500 yards away from you that you don't know needs insurance. Like, those types of questions don't get asked. They just don't get asked. They want to see a product that has a solution for them. My job is to make sure that I'm overfunding for the right age. I'm not going to go and explain why you have to overfund in your 40s or 50s. I'm just going to do it that way because I know it's the right thing to do. I just know it's the right thing to do. The worst question I typically get asked is, listen, what if the client doesn't increase their contributions? What if they keep it level? Well, here's my answer. If you notice, during the increases, I 3x your money, or I 2x your money, or I 5x your money. That percentage is still going to be the same regardless as to how much you put. So if you put less, I'm still going to 2x. I'm just 2xing a lesser amount. If you put in more, I'm still going to 2x. I'm just 2xing a bigger amount. So the question is up to you, Mr. Client. How much do you want to put in? And let me tell you the bad side to this. This is not a short-term vehicle. You do this short-term, you're going to get back less than what you put in. Guaranteed. You want me to show you what I mean? Let me show you what I mean. That way you don't get mad at me later on down the line. This is, look at the first 10 years. You put in 12 grand, first 10 years. If you quit, I write you a check for $6,200. Did you make money? Nope. You lost it. I am guaranteeing you, if you treat this as a short-term vehicle, you're gonna get back less money than what you put in. And listen, you know why? Let me ask you this question. You guys will like this because I do this often when I talk to a client about this. Have you ever taken a penny and doubled it every single day for 31 days to see what it's worth? Well, you start with 1 penny and then 2 pennies and then 4 pennies and then 8 and then 16 and then 32, where every day you double for 30 solid days. Do you know what happens? Let me show you. You start with 1 penny, and after 10 days, that 1 penny is worth $5. Like, okay, this is your first 10 days. Your second 10 days, right, which puts you now at 20 days, you got $5, and you turn $5 into $5,000. You're like, okay, right? Let me ask everybody here a question. Can you double a penny the first 10 days without a problem? You go from 1 penny to 5? You can, right? Can you go from $5 to 5,000? Some of you can, no problem. $5, okay, cool. Let me look at the next round of 10 days. So now I'm 30 days in. I'm turning $5,000 into guess how much? Guess how much, Mr. Client? You ready?
5 million.
I'm going to turn that into $5 million. Do you know what happens if you doubled it for 31 days? You would turn this 5 million into just 1 day, 10 million. Just 1 day. Just 1 day. Look, I know this is an exaggeration. You're talking about 31 days, but this is very real for 31 years. Maybe not 31 days, but what about 31 years? Let me tell you, this is sexy. But I need you to understand something. This doesn't exist if you don't allow for these first 20 to exist. This does not exist if you don't allow these first 20. So I need you to understand something. This IUL that you're looking to do, this tax-free retirement plan you're looking to do, this LERP plan that you're looking to do, will not be attractive the first 10 years, will look okay the second 10 years, but will look damn sexy if you let it go all the way up into the 30th year. But if you don't give these an opportunity, you'll never get to this. Simple as that. Just simple as that. Unfortunately, I wish I could take you right to here, but you got to go through this first and this first to get to that. So if you can think long-term, if you could pay yourself first, this works great for you. If you're a short-term, immediate gratification type person, this will be the worst thing you could possibly do. And at 65 years of age, your son and your grandson will be greeting people at Walmart because they didn't pay themselves first. Does that make sense, Mr. Client? Any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Tony. So you said under 34, you're running the app at level because they have time. Is that time?
Not level. I'm running it at target. I'm still increasing.
You're still running it at increase.
I'm still running. Look, there's one scenario where I would run an IUL at level. It's a 50-plus-year-old that's willing to put up $1,000 or higher dollars per month, because the chances of that person increasing from $1,000 to $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month is so slim. They're already maxed out that I don't mind running it at level. But if there's a shred of opportunity that client for every 5 to 10 years could increase their contribution, then I have to run it at increase because I need to make room for that increase. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tony, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said on the Kids IUL, we can add the guaranteed insurability rider, and they have 6 times to add it during the course of the policy.
From
those
21 to 40 years of age are the windows, yes.
21 to 40 years of age. So on those additional $25,000 policies, are those whole life policies?
No, they're more IULs.
So my next question to that is, can we overfund those as well?
Facts.
Hot damn.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They're brand new policies. And guess what? They're more sales too. It's additional sales you're making. So if you're doing this on an 18-year-old, guess what? And you're going to be in business for a long time. On their 21st, ring, ring, annual review, exercise your $25,000 increase. On their 24th birthday, ring, ring, do the same thing. Make sense? More questions? These are the $1 million baby plans. This is what it is. You know what I don't, you know how I don't like to sell IULs? It's a college savings plan. No, it's not. No, it's not. Can an IUL be a college savings tool? Yes, but it has to be on the parent's IUL because the parent needs to put in $500 a month in order for it to make a difference in the next 18 years, assuming your child is a newborn. Because no matter what, an IUL needs time to season and grow. So if you're thinking I'm going to solicit this as a college savings plan and put it on the kid, it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen because you can't put $500, $600, $700 a month into a kid's IUL. The face value will be way too high. The insurance company won't approve it. So therefore, it's not a college savings plan for a kid. It's a college savings plan if you do it on the parent's IUL. Mr. Parent, Miss Parent, Mr. Parent, let's put $500 a month into your own IUL. And when your child goes to college, you'll have some cash value there that you can borrow against to help them cover for college costs. And here's what's cool. Rather than your child taking out a student loan and paying 3%, why don't you have them take out an interest-free loan from your own retirement account? They can pay back your retirement account, and then that money can continue down the path of what it was supposed to be, which was your retirement. It just gives you choices. Because if your child doesn't get a scholarship, if your child decides not to go to school, or excuse my French when I say it, if your child is dumber than a bag of rocks and decides that school's not for them, you don't want to set up 529 college savings plans only to find out that the money's not going to be put to use. So put money away for your retirement in an IUL, knowing that you can borrow against it during your child's college years and pay that back 0 interest rather than paying 2 and 3% in federal loans. Get it? Got it? Good.
Also, Chuck, when will this video be available?
Ooh, I'm going to save it now. Hang on a second.